Jeannie.
Good morning, Anmar.
Well, today we are saying hi to this very inspiring woman sitting next to me,
Thank you.
doing my second podcast.
I'm very proud of you. This is exciting. I love the topic.
And Jeannie Sanders and I connected years ago. While I was living in Las Vegas, we went to this old school saloon that's 100 years old, and we connected over food and drink. So I thought it very inspiring that she could be here today to talk to us about, different connections and and our friendship that I think will span over decades.
Oh,
We
absolutely.
talked about that.
For our lifetime.
Okay. But I want to introduce you guys to this beautiful human being that is a powerful, big influence in my life. Jeannie is, I wear it on the sleeve. What you see, what you get. Authentic, beautiful human being. Realistic, optimistic, and damn good wine drinking partner.
Hey,
Crime.
that's right. High five to that.
After 21 years of her being a Siemens executive world and living and working in different places across the world, she worked for the president of sales, chairing multiple diversity groups and councils, was invited to the White House to be a speaker, and which she will tell you a little bit about in a little while, was recruited by the HR for US to run a strategic partnership in the United States, and speaking at over about 30 plus universities. In 2019, she decided to launch her own company and own consulting business based on her career and life experiences. In that time, she also got married. She had this beautiful tyke, little bean of a child who I adore. And
who adores you?
And I think it's time to talk about herself now. So, Jeannie, I'm going to ask you to start with, where did you grow up? How did you grow up? And just talk to us. Tell us about
thank you, Anmar. And that was a beautiful introduction. Thank you. And I think the Pioneer Saloon is not only hundreds, it's the oldest in Vegas. So if you're listening, people, and those listening, when you come to Vegas, you've got to check it out. They're like authentic, real bullet holes from years ago, some shootings and things like that. So
I remember the floor being like, you walk in and you're like, I'm not sure about this.
It's creaky.
It's creaky and cranky.
It's great. Yeah.
It's great.
But no, and then secondly, I'm so happy you're doing this. I know that we've talked about this. I'm happy you're launching it. I love the topic. Anmar and I chatted about, some things that we wanted to talk about without being scripted on the podcast, because I think those are the best. But I love the idea of talking about, one, connection, because I am a connector in life. It is part of one of my 3 pillars of my company that Anmar talked about, practice of positivity leadership consulting. So connectors is one. So I love the idea of connecting, but I think it is so powerful to talk about the food aspect too, because it really does fold into almost everything that we do. And it has, really been impactful after I thought about it, when we were talking about this, more in my life than I probably ever thought. So, to your point, your question, I grew up in Florida, born and raised in Florida, moved out here to Nevada in 2016. Had a lovely childhood. My parents were amazing. And my mom was probably that first foodie influence, always making wonderful dinners. And we had Sunday family night dinner together, and we would have smorgasbord nights. And I don't ever remember going out to dinner. It was always home cooked meals by mom. And then here we are, I'm 46, and our whole childhood, I'm sure my siblings would say the same. We have favorite dinners that mom makes us for our birthday. And in college, I remember she would come up and surprise us, to take us to fancy restaurants or bake cakes in our apartments and open the door and surprise and bake everything and decorate all that. So, looking back, again, connecting the dots, I always use Steve Jobs quote. I couldn't connect the dots looking forward. It was only standing where I was, looking back, where I could connect the dots in life. That was from a Stanford speech. But commencement speech. But looking back now, I realized that played a major part in our family being so dynamic and together. And so loving. And now I am trying to do that with my own family, making sure we have, Sunday dinners and special things to eat and meals that are important to everybody. So it's really interesting.
So you mentioned, your mom were making your favorite meals, which basically becomes a comfort food, doesn't it?
It does.
It's
Chicken divan, if that's your question.
And my
Chicken
question
divan.
is,
Yeah.
which is Jeannie's?
Chicken divan. And I think one of my brothers has stolen it as his favorite too. And so I'm like, no, chicken divan's mine. So for everyone listening, look up chicken, and you can make it differently. You can make it really, thick and fattening and all the things that my mom did, mayonnaise and all the things, but you can just make it in broccoli soup type thing too. So yeah, that's my favorite.
Awesome.
And I still make
It's
it.
amazing.
Yeah.
You still make it yourself?
Oh, I love it. Oh yeah, absolutely. And then you can change it up. You can put rice at the bottom or no rice and, cream of mushroom or yogurt, you can make it to whatever you want, to your liking.
Well, I know, and we've talked about this before, as you're not really a cook.
I'm not.
I
enjoy cooking, but I'm not a cook.
Okay.
I enjoy cooking to eat.
Yes.
Right.
She makes the basics.
Right.
You don't go out to look how to blend flavors and stuff like your mom did.
No.
But you're just a basic cook.
Right.
At home cook because you're forced to cook
Right.
at home. All right. Now you have a little itty bitty person that you have to make food for all the time. I know for a fact that this little one's favorite food is kale.
She loves kale. She loves kale. Yes. She loves kale. She loves broccoli. She's a savory. She likes meats and, cheese and some green veggies. Yeah. But I can't get her to eat a fruit. But you've told me that that's okay. Mom's listening. It's okay.
It's okay. Kids develop their own palate as they go. I mean, if she's eating a balanced meal, then there is no stress. I think in today's life, we stress way too much about what our kids are eating, what we are eating, all those kind of things. As a chef, I can tell you, yes, I cook for people. Yes, I'm all about flavor. Yes, when it comes to myself, I do the minimal. And we still will be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Now, to move on, I want you to tell people how powerful you are, really.
Oh, boy.
No, oh boy here. So we're talking to a woman that owns a company that she started in 2019, as we mentioned.
Yeah.
And this is a company about positivity and creativity and
empowerment and encouragement. And I feel like my whole life, again, looking back, I start connecting the dots. And then every time we move forward and we get older and we do more, I can connect more dots. But looking back at my life from a child, I remember I wanted to connect people. I always wanted to bring my friends together or, introduce people to one another, or even now, if there's, a conference that I think is going to be beneficial for somebody, I want to reach out and let them know and bring them in. So I've always wanted to connect. So yeah, it was after 21 years, and you mentioned some of the things that I did at Siemens. I really loved my career. Toward the end, it got a little hairy, but that's okay. I mean, you have to have those times, and you have to have good bosses and bad, and I had mostly wonderful, and I had a wonderful career. I traveled all over the world. I traveled all over the United States. I worked for, you mentioned the head of president of sales, and he is still today one of my biggest supporters, and he is a great man, a great husband, a great father. I still call on him to ask him business things, and he's just awesome. And then the White House. So I didn't speak at the White House. I just want to be clear. I went to talk, I was sitting in Michelle Obama's office, and it was when she was in office, and she had started the Joining Forces campaign. So it was to hire veterans into corporate America. And at that time, I was running a leadership program at Siemens called the Sales and Marketing Training Program. And we started hiring veterans into that program. So I think we were in the Wall Street Journal, I'm not sure, but we were highlighted, recognized for hiring a number of veterans with a military placing company. And so we were invited to the White House to talk about that. So, which is great, because I remember sitting there looking around and taking it all in, and, talking about dinners. It was that night at a dinner, and
again, food,
yep,
the
right?
connectivity of food.
Yep, a big dinner. And I think it was DC where then the head of HR asked me to move over. So yeah, I spent 16 years in sales, and then 5 at the end in an HR role. But, and then moved out here to Nevada, and my life just went, woo! I mean, it just opened up, and I learned about hiking and all of the fun paddleboarding, and the terrain out here is so different than Florida. So I was just inspired to start a program called GRIT, which stands for Go Reinvigorate Intrinsic Talents. Because of my background with women and the Women's Resource Group and leading the National Women's Group of the United, or the global group at Siemens, I thought originally it would be called Girls Reinvigorating Intrinsic Talent, and it would be focused on women. But I watch our world and I watch business, and we are not just women in this world, right? We're men and women, and we're everybody, and we need to coexist and figure out how to do life and business together. So I very quickly changed it after, I think it was my pilot program, and people start, which you did.
I did. I actually went, and I was one of her, how do you call it? People working with the people there,
Yeah.
hiking and carrying. I remember carrying a 50-pound
Backpack.
paddleboard
Yeah.
down to Hot Springs hike to the Mojave River so that we could go paddleboarding with all the people.
Right. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you did the pilot and then you helped out another time too.
Yes,
So
I
I'm
did.
very thankful. But so that was sort of something that happened organically, right? I started Practice of Positivity Consulting to work with companies and people on empowering and encouraging. And I spent so many years in corporate America and I had a great career that I wanted to help others do the same, right? We spend so many hours in the office, or now hybrid or working remotely, whatever it is, right? It's changed since COVID, but I wanted to try to give that back to companies and how to understand their culture, how to make it a great place for employees, really. So you're coming to work and you're absolutely loving it. And so that's the training and the seminars and the coaching and the consulting. And GRIT sort of happened organically because it was in the fall of 2019. So I launched in June. In the fall, Cadillac reached out and said, can you work with 25 of our executives of the West Coast? And that was my first big program. And then from there, we all know what happened in 2020, but I had 4 or 5 or 6 big contracts lined up. And of course the world shut down. But as you mentioned earlier, it was a blessing in disguise because we found out in the fall that I was pregnant. And so I gave birth in 2020 at 43 years old to my first miracle baby. So it's kind of worked out perfectly, right? So I've been able to kind of slow down and take that time to raise her. And now she's 3.5.
Well, life gives you what you need, not what you want.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And here you are.
Yeah.
A stay-at-home mom doing an absolutely amazing job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And one of the things you had mentioned traveling and talking about the career, and one of the things I thought about was with all of the, and I'm sure you obviously know because you were just in South Africa and you've traveled as well.
Yeah.
But isn't it amazing to watch the cultures and how people eat and what they eat and why they eat? And so one of the things I was thinking about was when I was in Mumbai, India, and they're so gracious. The people I met, they were so gracious and kind and welcoming, and they were eating cucumber sandwiches. We had cucumber sandwiches, and then after lunch, people aren't just jumping to get back in the office. We actually took a walk around the building, and you had a conversation before you got back to work. And, again, just pulling in all these pieces of dining and togetherness and connecting and really enjoying life. And I think back to Mumbai, where it can be so chaotic at times. It was so calming too. And just eating a cucumber sandwich and then taking a walk around the building before you went back to work. How beautiful.
It is beautiful. When I went to live in Taiwan for quite a few years, I mean, one of the first experiences I had was with food, connecting with the other people that were there. I arrived, and one of the first things somebody asked me was, "Are you tired and hungry?
Yeah, right.
Let's go and eat something." And we went to the street fair. Well, all the food is basically, most of it's on the streets, which was very interesting for me. But I mean, my first experience was, let's connect via food.
Sure.
I mean, think about it. How many times do we go to a place and connect with a person via food?
Absolutely. And then for those of us who are the nurturers and the caretakers, we want to do that for other people, right?
Yes.
So, I want to bring fruit out for you and bring back a coffee for you. And it's an act of service. It's an act of love, because you care for people. You want to nurture them and care for them.
Well, food is
Yeah.
all about nurturing and caring people. In any case, substance is something we need on a daily basis. And it's just a way that we can go and show love. I mean, my mom shows love, or used to. And now she's too old. Now we have to show her love.
No, sorry, Mom.
Sorry, mom. But my sister, for example, she was in an
Yeah.
accident.
Yeah.
I am listening to her saying, "Oh, my mom and dad is so wonderful. They keep on bringing me cups of coffee and
Yeah.
little sandwiches and everything." It's just an act of love.
It is. It's an act of love for sure. And and also it can help you. And I know your first guest, she was talking about from medical perspective, but I have a very interesting story, and I'm not sure if you even know this, but when I was pregnant, being fit and healthy, they diagnosed me with gestational diabetes. And so I spent about 1 week of trying to regulate my blood sugar and my food and changing everything. And it was like 1 week later, and one of the nurses said to me, "We're gonna have to put you on insulin." And I said, "Absolutely not. I'm not doing that." And so I did my own research. I took my blood at different times of the day where my cortisol levels were supposed to do other things. And I ended up following a dietitian in Canada and regulated my blood sugar. And I was in the best shape of my life. I mean, coming out of being pregnant, right? Because I regulated my diet based on food, and it wasn't working out. I mean, I couldn't. You saw how big my belly was when I
Yeah.
was pregnant. I was filled with
Oh,
water.
yeah.
So it wasn't even working out, which I believe in. I love working out. I think you have to have fitness in your schedule. But for me, it was food. It was food that regulated my insulin level and helped me not be on insulin, because I said I'm absolutely not going to do that. So that was food and diet.
Food and diet. It's such a big, and Lauren, I spoke to her about it and the first podcast as well. There's so much obesity
Yeah.
in the whole world. Very prominent here. I don't know if people know, but about 72% of children in America is obese. It's scary.
It is scary.
Food has got all these good things, but food also has bad connotations for people.
Mhm.
We talk to people all the time, and they're telling you, I don't feel good about myself. I
Mhm.
don't feel good about my body. I don't feel good about that. And I know you know, you're a speaker that makes people feel amazing. How would you deal with somebody that is constantly talking to you about, hey, I feel so bad about myself, but they don't take action either?
Yeah, well, I think if they're not taking action, my goal would probably be one, and I've talked about this recently, is I'm a big believer in asking questions. I think we go so quickly right to a solution before we stop really
Yeah.
and take a step back. So probably I would sit down with this person and I would go through a series of questions, and really that almost could be coaching, but not coaching, but just
Yes.
asking them. A good way to do that is very simply, and people listening, you can actually use this in relationships or, any type of relationship,
Yeah.
work, colleague, home life, is to say, when is the last time you felt an 8, 9, or 10 on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best? When is the last time you felt that way? And hopefully they say they can, you want to get them to visualize that. And they can say maybe 2 years ago. Okay, talk to me about what 2 years ago looked like. What did it look like? Where were you? What were you eating? What were you doing? What were you working? Because it's not just about the size, it's about how you're feeling, right? If you're
Yeah.
comfortable at a specific size, some people are comfortable at a 10-pound weight, or whatever it is, right? But if you can get a person to visualize and say, I felt this way at that time, and then keep digging and keep uncovering, then they're uncovering that answer for themselves. Instead of me saying, then it's not me saying, well, you need to lose weight and this is what you need to do. They're saying, 2 years ago, I felt like I was a 9 because I was doing these things. I was walking, I was, maybe working from home or working in the office. I was maybe drinking less or whatever it is. Okay, can you do one thing to get back there? Just one thing that you're doing. And they're going to say yes. And you'll say, okay, then let's do one thing in the next 1 month and we'll check back. And so if they're not taking action, they have to take action, just one step forward, and that's it. So that's probably how I would approach it, so that it's not, obviously, if somebody is in this position where they don't feel well and they're not taking action, well, then you have to approach it a little bit more gently.
True. Very true.
Yeah.
I mean, we look at people around us and it seems like the world is so focused on people being so skinny. And
I know.
actually, I was reading this piece the other day about how the world's changing and women that are more voluptuous is actually coming back
Mm-hmm.
into the world. And it's noticeable because if you look at magazines, you'll see people with fuller bodies, or you'll go to Target these days and they have a fuller body department, and they're actually are showcasing it. Isn't it? A few years ago,
It
there was,
changes, yeah.
it changes,
But
doesn't
I've
it?
seen it change quite a bit, just even over the last 10 years, right? I mean, it's, and probably a lot of influences and people on social media and celebrities and, more and more of these people are influencing it.
Yeah.
So, but it changes, right? You have, and I don't even want to say their names because I don't want to give them, but you have the certain people on TV who do injections and then everyone does that. And then when they take them out, then a lot of people follow them and take them out.
Yeah.
So I try not to even pay attention to that. Our body type is our body type, and we know that. I think that the more we are comfortable in whatever God has given us, that just overall helps our mental state, our confidence, and our ability to live our best lives.
If you had to choose, and you could say today that you would stand there and say, okay, I don't want to worry about my weight. I don't want to worry about what I'm eating, how I'm eating, and everything like that. Because food is pleasure, isn't it? Socializing over food, just having food, or grabbing a snack on the run, or whatever, everything, it gives you comfort. Okay. And sometimes it gives us more comfort than other days.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter in the end what you look what you look like on the outside. I know it is important to look good, and I'm not saying we need to look like a sloth, if you want to call it that way, a sloth. Let's use a sloth.
Well, and they move slowly, so there's that.
Yeah, they're sad, and well, not really. I think they're beautiful animals.
I think they're great. And you put them for
I know.
The fake sloth, yeah.
But what I'm saying is,
yeah. And one, I think that's why it comes back to that your individual desires, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we go through moments in life. I had moments in life where I wanted to be that super fit, and that's okay. And then, it changes, and then I can maybe go back and I reserve the right to decide if I want to, what I want to do.
Yeah.
Right. But I think if we don't feel good, if when you feel good, and that could be eating really, really healthy and you're like, I don't feel good, or it could be not eating really healthy and you don't feel well, but you have to be honest. We have to be honest with ourselves. And what realistically you can do. I mean, I've been the person who didn't eat the carbs, and I ate really clean, and I loved it. It wasn't stressful for me.
I was a vegan, as you know,
Yeah.
for many, many years.
Yeah. And so, but now, I've got a 3.5-year-old. So if she doesn't finish, her bacon and eggs in the morning, I scarfed out her bacon and eggs, or her mac and cheese, or her leftover pizza.
Hey, I joined in the situation.
Oh my gosh, we're detoxing people this week. But yeah, I mean, I think as long as you're just realistic and you don't let the outside influences get you too much, realistic with your lifestyle and, what you can afford to eat and what you, and how you feel about yourself. And I think it's okay. I think it's okay either way. I think we have, we judge ourselves too harshly. We judge other people. We listen. If you want to be a little softer, be softer. As long as you feel great about it, that's great. If you want to be super thin and lean and you feel good about it, absolutely.
But society doesn't allow us to actually feel good if you are a little bit overweight, or a little bit too soft, or a little bit too crinkly, or a little bit too saggy, or whatever it is. Society doesn't allow us to be the person that we just are, or that the way God made us, if you want to put it that way, the way we were born and grow old. Society doesn't allow us to be like that anymore. True?
Well, I think certain areas, I mean, I would agree with you, yeah, by and large, and it's always been that way. But if you don't listen to, like, I don't listen to influencers and social media and follow people who are doing it right, and you don't either. So for me, I don't see that. But I mean, I think so, yeah. I think it's just a natural, human judgment.
It
So,
is.
but I think it's changing. I mean, I think just like if we get back into the, workspace, and think about career, it used to not be okay for women to show emotion in the office, and now it is. And it used to not be okay. We were always about, and my mentality is an old school, grind it out, work hard, play hard. I grew up in a male dominated business. So I had to be tough, but I liked being tough. I was okay with that. So my mindset is kind of there. And I've even had to sort of like peel back my layers and realize, okay, I'm 46 now. My mindset may change because it may not always be. There are some companies who are still grind it out, work hard, play hard. And I want to work with those companies because I want them to come do grit programs. Those are the people that are going to say, yes, I'm going to invest in my employees to send them outside, go do a fun hike, build camaraderie, get their endorphins going, come back and, be more productive at work. But I think we are dialing back a little bit. We're allowing people to work from home a little bit more. We're allowing a little bit more, I think, emotion in the workplace, and we're seeing some of that shift. So I think we're not as hard on people as we used to be, I think. So, and that also goes for looks.
I think so. Although I watch the younger children and how focused they are on all these influences and the way they need to look.
Oh, I just saw something on the news the other day about the skincare. See, and I think it's great. I think it's great to have good hygiene, right?
Yes.
And I'm definitely not someone who should even be speaking about this because I don't have any, esthetician background, whatever. And I've watched people on the TV talking about this. But these girls are going through like 8, 9, 10 different skincare products, and and they have other dermatologists coming on and saying, listen, that can actually be harmful for your skin. And as it turns out, and so there's this debate, how do we feel about that? I personally, I don't want Stevie, when she's 8, 9, 10, using 10 different products on her face. Keep it very simple. And there are certain things, right? SPF,
Yes.
a certain lotion. You don't need all of these chemicals on their skin. But yeah, I've definitely seen that recently too. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like young people are influenced by influences, and everything goes about what they see, the social media, and what they need to be.
Yeah.
But let's go off that. I want to talk to you a little bit about, we grew up old school. I know you grew up
Yeah.
old school, and I grew up old school, and I've met your mom, and she's lovely.
Thank you. She is. She's one of my favorite women on this planet. Mom.
So you know that we grew up all differently.
We
Food etiquette. I have a British kind of background, if I want to call it that. And we're very prim and proper when we eat and hold a knife and the fork. And, food is prim and proper kind of thing. But I'm also very South African. So we barbecue,
Right.
The more meat you have on the barbecue or the barbie,
On the barbie.
the barbie, as they say, the happier South Africans are.
Yeah.
But etiquette, food etiquette and life etiquette, it all connects, doesn't it?
Yes. And I think it's important. I still think it's important. And I haven't heard people talk about it. And so I did. It's interesting you just mentioned that. Years ago, I was running one of our training programs at Siemens. And they were probably 23, 24-year-olds. We were doing a training in Canada, and we left, and one of my participants of the program spilled coffee on his shirt. And I said, okay, we're a team. We're all going to go back together, change your shirt. And then we had a conversation about it. So probably if you're going to a customer meeting, maybe you don't want to drink your coffee at that hour, or maybe you want to bring an extra shirt. So we had a nice conversation about that, because you don't want to show up to a customer meeting with coffee all over your shirt, right? I still believe that that's proper to show some respect and not do that. So the next morning, there were like 5 or 6 of them that were late, and I said, okay, we're going. So I ended up going into the specific conference room we were in. We were meeting, and that night I said, okay, guys, you had a free night, but we're going to sit and do an etiquette dinner. And I did some research, and we sat down and did a formal etiquette dinner. And we talked about, not only knife and fork and setup and all that, but where you sit at a table. And if you are at a long business table, where does the most important person to sit to have the conversation, and paying the bill, and appropriateness of drinking or not drinking, all those types of things. Long story short, we got back to the office, and our CEO of the company at that time, Randy Zwern is his name. He's retired now. Came up to me and he says, I heard you took them to do an etiquette dinner. And I said, yes, they upset me. You know, they were late, you know, da, 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 blah. And he said, wow, that's so great. That's so cool. He said, we used to do that back in like the 80s or something like that, because this particular program that I ran, it was in the place since the 70s. And then it went through different iterations, and took a huge hiatus. And then, you know, I was asked to run it again. So I think it's important. I haven't heard anyone really talking about dining etiquette anymore, but I think we should.
It's a lost art. I feel dining etiquette, and it spills over
Mm-hmm.
to general life. Again, what you
Mm-hmm.
brought it. It's like it's a lost art. Etiquette is lost art. I mean, I watch people going into restaurants or stuff like that. How many men still open a door
Mm-hmm.
for women? It's just etiquette seems
Mm-hmm.
to be a lost art.
Yeah.
And if you think about y- the romantic ages, let's
Yeah.
call it the romantic ages. What was it all about? Etiquette.
Mm-hmm.
The
And
way
courting.
courting
Yes.
and treating and
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
taking going for high tea, all
Right.
those kind of things, which it just is beautiful.
It is.
And it's such a lost art. You notice it. You notice how the people eat in the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
You notice the children eating with open mouths.
Right. I know.
You
We were
know,
talking about that yesterday, chewing gum.
chewing gum.
I offered Anmar gum, and I haven't chewed gum in a long time. And so, you know, even just chewing gum, we had a good conversation about that, right?
Yes, it
And
is.
I think it's okay. I think we've, you know, especially from like a parenting perspective, you know, I also have two stepchildren, and I've been sort of blamed for being the tough one, because I do implement some of these rules of growing up. You know, I don't think it's okay for you to chew with your mouth open or to chew gum like when you're in church and the camera's on you, and you know, so I make sure to say those things and try to implement those. And I'm going to do that with Stevie too. And I think
Yeah.
it's okay.
It's like people eating with their hats on their heads in a restaurant
Mhm.
or even at home. I watch the children run in. I go and eat with people, and the children run in and they have hats on their
I
head.
know, and I'm so guilty of that ever since I moved out here, because I'm more casual than I've ever been. Like my business picture, I've got a hat on, you know, because I'm
But
trying
that's
with a
different.
blazer, because I, you know, it's a bit, because I'm trying to show the dichotomy of like leadership
But
and being outside. Yeah.
according to me, your program is about grit. It's all
Mhm.
about outside. It is the look you want to think. But I'm talking about general etiquette.
Mhm. Mhm.
That it seems so lost,
Yeah.
it is.
So you should do that. You should add into your foodies world and some of you should do an etiquette course. And you should offer that to your listeners, because if you just did an online virtual and just a refresher, right? Because I think a lot of people know, but you know, maybe people think it's not important anymore. And I feel like we're here to say, you know, someone from South Africa, someone from America, you know, we're not the same generation, kind of are. We're 10 years
I know.
apart.
Yeah.
I think it would be great to do that. I think you're the perfect person to do it. I can even help you.
Well, look
There
at
you go.
that. Maybe I'll start that soon, I'll be having a podcast about etiquette, the lost art of etiquette. But going back to other things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I want to ask you, so if you were a superfood
Oh,
superhero in life, what would you
superfood.
just for the fun of it? So here you are, you need to be a superhero. You're Stevie Five superhero or whoever you want to be, and
Wait, a
you are
superhero or superfood?
superfood superhero.
Oh my goodness. I don't even know what that
Who and
means.
what will you be and why? I need to know the why. I know what I want to be.
I mean, who doesn't want to be Wonder Woman?
Yeah, I know, but Wonder Woman, it's not a food.
Oh, good
It's
point.
superfood group.
Superfood.
A superfood group.
Olive oil?
Okay, why would you want to be olive oil?
Um, Olive oil, I use it every single day in my pan on the stove. I don't know. That's the first thing that just popped into my head, and it's so weird. Why did I say olive oil? I have no idea. Olive oil, I use it in everything, and it's
Healthy.
healthy, and it's slippery. You can use it for a lot, I don't know.
You can use it on salad. Yeah, I get where you're coming
Yeah.
from. Not a bad one.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have
Yeah.
different things.
Someone one time in a leadership program I was in, a women's leadership program, they asked me what type of boat would I be, and it was a similar like, and I said a wooden sailboat, and that stuck with me forever too. And then I think about it all the time, and how beautiful are wooden
Sailboats, yeah.
And just gliding along, and they're gorgeous, and so now I'll be a wooden sailboat with lots of olive oil.
On my wooden sailboat.
On my wooden sailboat. Lots of olive oil. I don't know. What would you be? What's your super food?
Well, Laura asked me the same on the first one, and I'm gonna have to stick with that one because I can't be a new superhero every period.
Oh, yes, you can.
I can, but we'll stick with that one. I'm a grape.
Okay.
And I'm a grape because I want to change water into wine.
Oh, it's you.
Remember, wine partners.
That's right. Yes, it's very miracle-y of you, turning water into wine. Also, grapes change and morph, and if you let them dry out, they get very
I could be a raisin.
You could be a raisin, and then you can get squashed, and then you turn lots of fun. People can,
yeah.
I like that
step
one.
On me.
I like that one. I think if we do another one, I'm gonna think about that a little. I still don't know. I think I'm still going with olive oil.
That's why I threw it at you, because you needed to kind of like just get up and say something,
Yeah.
That's the best part of it.
I like it.
Throw something at somebody and see what they come up with.
Yeah, it's a good one. Lots of olive oil on my wooden sailboat, talking leadership and all the fun things.
All right. Well, I had a lovely time talking to you.
This was fun.
About anything and everything. We went on script, off script. We didn't have a script.
We didn't have a script. No.
But
we just brainstormed. But I do want to let your folks know, I'm going to put something together on Valentine's Day, a virtual event, 9:30 PST, 12:30 EST. That's a Wednesday morning. And then they can go and sign up on jeanniesanders.com or practiceofpositivity.com. They'll both take you there. So
we would love to join you for that event on
Valentine's Day.
Day.
Talk about life, love, and leadership, because they're all combined.
It is all combined. And you know what? We all need that in our lives.
Yes. So keep doing what you're doing. Keep this up. These conversations, I think, are going to be so much fun for people to listen to. I think your guests are going to be amazing. And hopefully you'll have me back and we can do another one.
I would love to have you back, and I'm looking forward to having you back sooner than later.
Thank you, Anmar.
Thank you, Jeannie, for coming and joining us on this journey that we are taking, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.